Welcome everyone back to Pomino's. Hope we're all doing really well. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe. We're smashing out subscribers at the moment, and I can't thank you enough for the support. You can go a step further, become a member, or go and buy some merchandise. Links in the description to do that is on the channel. So, big game. The last game of the regular season. Carlton have cemented finals. They host GWS in the final game of the season in what really does shape to be a very interesting encounter for both sides. Carlton haven't experienced something like this for a long time. Obviously, the last time they played finals, that was due to Essendon's indiscretion. They go in this with their own right, 5th on the ladder versus 8th. Carlton 5 games out of 5, 9 games in a row, gunning for double figures, their 10th. GWS, on the other hand, they've surged into finals, having been in and around most of the year. Just 2 losses in their last 5. 12-10 their record. Carlton's 13-8. And the last time out, obviously, round 3 this year, Carlton winning by 10 before they changed it round. No surprises, really. The team selection, probably Carlton's strongest ins for a long, long time. Chera, Durden, Fogarty, Govan at time of writing, and Sammy Walsh return. Sam Doherty rested with soreness. Ed Kerno drops out of the subs bench. But also, rumours are Cripps may miss out. But with Carlton already cementing finals, that shouldn't faze them. But also, a great chance for some players here to really keep the selection pressure on, which has been a highlight during these 10 runs. I think it's really understated that people haven't been talking about Carlton's depth. Pretty much Carlton's depth has got them into the 8. That is the big thing, and that is something that should excite Carlton fans globally, that for finally we're talking about depth is a must. GWS, though, a lot to play for this game. They have to win to guarantee finals. Percentage is in their favour, really, when you look at it in the terms of Essendon, who were chained to them, need to beat Collingwood by about 1 million, and the Doggies have got Geelong. But with Geelong's selection, it is interesting. It looks like that they have kind of queued in the rack, and the Doggies should win that one. So a lot to play out. Very simple for them. A win is a must. A bit like last year for us with the Doggies. Will Carlton go into this and do them a favour? It would be ironic, because if they did, it looks like they would play them in the next round. But let's get straight into GWS. What do we know about them? A very strong, and all these numbers are from the last 5 games. So it gives us a really clear indication of what they're about. And GWS, as we know, they're a very run and stun side. They're one of the top 3 sides of the comp, the second side with handballs. They don't really focus much on the kicks, particularly their rebound 50s is a real poignant run and stun, which is really interesting for Carlton, because Carlton pride themselves on their forward pressure, particularly their forward turnover game in the last 10 weeks has been really impressive. And that is where Carlton do a lot of damage with their heavy forward press. But this side here, they won't be reacting to that kick. They'll be looking to run through it. And that in themselves makes it a very entertaining matchup, because even with Cripps not being there, he isn't the huge part of it. What is interesting, though, with GWS, because they play such a fast brand of football, and it's a very chaotic brand as well, it has to be said, with Kingsley's side, they do make one of the most unforced errors in the comp, and they are one of the few sides in the top 8 to feature in the top 5 of that. The disposal efficiency, there or thereabouts. They're pretty much, by this stage, most of the top 10 teams are around the same thing. Inside 50s, about 58, which again is about on par, on brand with the system. It is really interesting, though, when we get to these tackles numbers, that the 63.6, they are a high tackling side, one of the hardest sides to tackle as well, because of how they move the ball. Rebound 50 rate, 76.3%. Meters gained, like you say, this is a lot of run and carry. So a lot of running. Contested possession differential, they look to take the tackle and knock it onto a receiver like Carlton do. Clearance differential, negative 2.8. The marks inside 50 rate, obviously quite warped with last week where they took the piss. and 50% of their chance creation, which again warps because in the last 5 games they have absolutely played a team that wasn't there. Let's look at Carlton, though. We know how these boys play their football. It's become a brand now, and finally we have a brand, and that shouldn't be understated. Where GWS are probably the most talked about and hyped side this year, I can't get over the hype that GWS have, and it blags my head. And I'm not understating what they do. What they do is what they do, but I do think there is a lot better sides out there in the AFL, and you are looking at the numbers of one of them. Everyone is trying to deflate it. We've got the turnover game now is in there. And then you look at Carlton, particularly when they did that stat in recent times, they've played sides that do not hemorrhage scores in turnover, some of the lowest, which is very interesting, I think, in that avenue. But Carlton, a very balanced side. They look to take the game on like GWS, but they also look to enact pressure very high up the ground. This is where Carlton's forte has been, and that is probably why you're seeing a different avenue to goal. They have really certainly, particularly when we get onto these tough numbers. But Carlton, a little bit more kick and handball. They still do the run and stun. What we're seeing here, though, is a lot of kicks as Carlton try and open up the play. They're very patient at times, and that's a new sign of Carlton. Very similar disposal efficiency. Inside 50s, again, not very much between it. Carlton are looking to do that, particularly with their smalls, and I would expect this number to really rise in the finals. Now they've got 2 key pillars. Carlton are really looking, though, to maximise their inside 50 entries, and that has been a real case in point. No longer are we seeing Carlton force that inside 50. They're now starting to get a lot more organic and pick and choose when they go. A lot of switches before 50. One of the best rebound 50 rates in the comp, and it's no surprise Carlton damage you from this back half of the ground. And that rebound 50 rate has really been a real tail of the tape in the last couple of weeks, particularly Carlton, the best rebound 50 rate side in the comp at deflecting it over the last 5 rounds. And that is by a big, big stretch, I have to admit. Meters gained per disposal. Carlton have surged into the top half above AFL competition when they were languishing at the bottom rungs a couple of months ago. That is insane. That number has been the big one. But these are the bread and butter of this side. The contested animal and the stoppage and centre clearance beast that is Carlton. Carlton look to maximise these areas. They love taking on 2 and 3 players and then giving a handball received. And that has been a real impressive treat because that game style genuinely requires a lot of cohesion between the sides. Sides that we've seen play that brand have generally played a lot of games together, and it's been built up over a number of years. Carlton have built that in a number of months, that trust, and then it's been changed, particularly that engine room. And that is a real delight about how this ethos and how this side goes about it. Carlton will be looking to say, well, tell you what, you like to piss about with it in the back half of the ground. We're better than you in the guts and around the clutches. Wait until we put that pressure very deep, coming almost from fullback Carlton in the opposition area, flood that area, and they take the short options. And that is going to be really a key to this one. Carlton love taking them short options off you in the back half of the ground. And this is where they are going to be trying to force that kick percentage of GWS to astronomically rise. And as you can see, the tackle numbers, Carlton are ferocious. They're tenacious when they haven't got the ball. Matt Duffy said you are most dangerous when you don't have the ball. And this has been case in point for Carlton. And the chance creation, very healthy. 46.2% of their inside 50 is generating an opportunity at goal. And a new stat, people have asked about this over the last 5 games. The plus negatives, blue represent Carlton win, orange represent GWS. And that's from a Carlton perspective. So Carlton kick 4.8% of the time more, like we discussed. Very similar game styles. Carlton a bit more methodical, particularly in that back half of the ground before they give and go, where a lot of handballs in the back half of the ground from GWS. They're looking to break that first line. Creating a disposal efficiency in a Carlton favour of almost identical. Let's be honest. 4.2 inside 50s more per game from GWS over the last 5. Rebound 50 rate, though, like you say, this is the gap. Carlton killing that in that ratio, and Carlton slightly, just 100 centimetres more per game, per touch. These are the interesting numbers, though, and these are the tail of the tape. 2.2 contested differential, showing that Carlton really do their damage in there. Plus 14.2 clearance differential. This is Carlton's bread and butter. This is their strength. This is where they will win this game. More tackles, more inside 50 rate, and a better chance creation, which is really interesting considering that they have 4 less inside 50s per game. And it's really interesting as well because the pressure indicators that we look at, Carlton are absolutely flying, particularly on ground ball gets, plus 10 in this. So Carlton, a real physical beast. Let's look at how that looks over 4 quarters in the last 5. And you can see this is a real interesting thing, and it's something we talk about a lot. Quarter 2 and quarter 3 of Carlton, they look to build very early. And Carlton, albeit last week was a difference of that, we talked about quarter 4 being the important one because Gold Coast had one of the worst quarter 4s outside of the bottom 2 in the league. Carlton, very similar matchup, but you see Carlton start traditionally better with 1 draw and 2 victories versus 1 and 5. Quarter 2, though, these 2 here are real building blocks, and we've seen the 4th quarter be dependent on what Carlton do in the terms of where the game situation is. It really affects Carlton. This, when the game is won, this is a solidification quarter, and that's where Carlton have lost quarter 4s. When the game is already on ice and Carlton are looking to control it and go for goal. That has been really interesting. In the victories when Carlton have been high, they look to go goal for goal here. They look to control the game. That shows an exceptional maturity rate. And as you can see, GWS, they've been peppered in a few of these games, and they've been the beneficiaries of where Carlton have negated. So the quarter 3 here is probably the really true metric of this, and also that second quarter. And this is where Carlton will be coming out. They'll be looking to make that brand and win it. And I reckon whoever wins the first quarter here will win the game quite comfortably in the end, just with the matchups of these 2 sides. And let's look at how that translates into real money, what you're here for. Carlton's defence versus their forwards. Carlton have a huge margin of victory here. The midfield, Carlton, with Cripps, this is, incidentally, they have a huge margin. However, with Cripps, although that's a big out, you shouldn't see too much of a deficit there. Carlton's forwards versus their defence, outside of Sam Taylor, who is very good in himself, Carlton will be looking at this and saying that they're very comfortable here, particularly with Harry being able to negate the influence of Taylor in the terms of that 2 keys, and Jack Martin will be floating in that role. And when they rest TDK there, Carlton will be looking at that as a very strong with their forward pressure, particularly with Fogarty being named as well. That really helps Carlton out. And clearance and stoppage, it's a no-brainer. It's a tight game, it is. And that is what we've done there is we've 50% negated Cripps' influence, right? Which I think is fair, even if he does play. And if he doesn't, that will be interesting because it's about what the players will be bringing in anyway, and that's a Carlton 3%, meaning that if in the last 5 games it repeats itself, on average, Carlton win by 3. And as you've been known, if you've been following this channel, that isn't a comfortable margin, but it does mean that if Carlton do what they do, which is on average about 11.3% above TPI over the last 9 weeks, they should be fine. It's going to be a real entertaining game. Get down there. Remember to get the 7 Nation Army flowing for the boys. Should be a really entertaining game. Make sure you cheer hard, though. Win, loss, and draw. Because these boys deserve to be clapped off regardless of the result this week. What they've done in a short space of time is nothing remarkable. And obviously in 2 weeks' time, the focus changes and the boys go on to bigger fish. And I can't wait to cover it. Stay tuned. We've got a lot of exciting content in the bye after the review coming up. Much love. Look after yourselves. Be good to one another. Palm out.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella